We do have a fun second hour on deck for you guys. 15 minutes from now, our buddy Michael Calabrese, college basketball betting analyst at the Action Network. He'll join us to go over tomorrow's big card in college hoops. I also just kind of want to get like a sort of primer on like, hey, I haven't been watching a lot of college hoops. Who's good? Who's a fraud? What should we be looking at as we approach March Madness in about 2.5 weeks or so? So we got a fun second hour planned for you guys. But here, Mike, we can go over some of our Super Bowl thoughts because you know what? We haven't really gotten a chance to do a show since Super Bowl 58 last Sunday. You said in the first hour, you made out pretty well, 4 for 5 with the bets. Yeah, you said you got lucky on a McCaffrey one, but what else were you betting?
Nothing huge. I bet some unders early, under first quarter, half. That were pretty solid. I mean, that bumble I talked about helped, but I think that the game flow and both defenses played pretty well in the first half. Got there, the McCaffrey over. And he was on pace. He was at 80 at half. It was 130. Yeah. And then
disappeared in the third quarter.
Shanahan get a lot of criticism for that, right? They ran 8 out of 9 passing plays on 3 straight 3-and-outs. And then they used McCaffrey almost as a decoy only. I mean, I watched Purdy's eyes. He rarely looked at McCaffrey as he came out into the flat on those plays in the second half. But I know they didn't run the ball as successfully late in the first half as they did early in the first half as well. Over 2.5 persons to attempt to pass, which was a very popular. We got beat on that prop here, but any entry or trick play, entry or trick play, it's actually a pretty good bet.
Yeah. Shout out Juwan Jennings.
Pacheco rushing yards is the one I lost, and he struggled early. Right, I said here's a full Ronnie Harmon here. He's fumbling the ball every time he touches it. For those that remember January 1st, 1986, that Rose Bowl with Iowa, 5 fumbles, Ronnie Harmon, on a team that was ranked number 1 a lot of the year. So overall, and then my main bet was, when the line was 2.5 on Tuesday of last week, I took 3.5 with Kansas City, minus 165, which at game time you would have had to play minus 240, right? Because the line came down from 2.5 to 1.5. So I thought the line would go that way. Plus, I just wanted more. I thought the game was a field goal game. And then when you miss the extra point, you're in a really great spot, or blocked extra point. So I wasn't as confident in the Chiefs as ever. You know, a lot of people bet them money line. A lot of people pick the points. They just bet them money line. You like the Chiefs. Yep. I just thought it would be a close game, and I wasn't going to go against Mahomes. I get there were a lot of arguments for the value on the 49ers on how much that line had moved since Christmas. If you would have looked at the look ahead of 7 or 6.5. And I could see people betting a lot of money on the 49ers and laying 1.5. I couldn't see doing that with the Chiefs, make it a huge investment. We took 2 $1 million bets, one on the Chiefs, one on the Niners, 2 $500,000 bets, one on the Chiefs, one on the Niners. But almost every other bet was just Chiefs, right? People just bet the Chiefs. So we ended up needing the Niners, and we still won, but we would have won a lot more if the Niners would have been able to win. The overtime hurt us.
I was gonna say,
every book talked about it. People bet that will there be an overtime.
They were like, what, 9-1, 8-1?
It was anywhere from 8 to 10 in town. Anywhere from I saw 10-1 as well. And I didn't bet. I looked at it actually.
That extra point.
And didn't bet it. Yeah, that was. And the kickers kicked so well, and he just that wasn't the lines. That was a low kick on that extra point that changed the game. You said you had a few props as well.
Yeah, the Pacheco, that was a loser. Yeah, I think the whole world was on Pacheco over, which I guess we should have known that. But also the whole world was on Kansas City, and that also won. So almost like that stuff doesn't matter. But the Chiefs money line, that was a really nice size bet for me. Pacheco, that was a loser. Mahomes over completions, that was a winner. Probably a little fortunate, maybe just the way the game state played out there, but I think that it was going to go over regardless. They were always going to use the kind of short passing game as an extension of the run game. So over 25.5, I like that quite a bit there. Kelsey overs, those were able to cash. I did have Kelsey MVP. We talked about that stuff. But Kelsey MVP,
20-1.
20-1. Pacheco MVP. Those didn't get home, which honestly, through 3 quarters, the way the game was playing out, I was liking where I was sitting. I said, if Kelsey can just get like a go-ahead game-winning touchdown, I felt that maybe he at least had a chance. I was at least live. But then once it gets to OT, if Mahomes was going to lead them down, he was always going to win Super Bowl.
We closed at 11-1, by the way.
Kelsey?
Sure.
Everybody was betting that narrative.
The most single-player props that were bet based on one player was Juszczyk.
Everyone loved the Juszczyk.
They loved Juszczyk.
And they got the second play of the game?
How about the first catch? Yeah, I mean...
Second
first reception.
I was watching the game. I was like, oh, looks like everybody just wins.
Yep. So I tell you, we did very well on the MVP market. Nobody wants to bet the favorite at that short of a price, right? Everybody's taking a shot. That was good. Squares were good for us. And the first quarter was an obvious 0-0, but the first quarter had the lowest handle. it was surprising. So, and we won to the other quarters. So
yeah, that was another loser for me. The squares I had
did you
4.
try some
I had Kansas City 4. I had 9 or 0. So I was thinking like 24-20 was the score I had in my head, which it kind of was a little close, but didn't quite get there. But yeah, square it was gonna pay out like 35-1 on that one. So every now and then I'll take a shot on the squares because why not? It's a Super Bowl. It's always good to have some fun props in there. But now that the Super Bowl is in the rearview mirror, we do have the NFL offseason to look ahead to. And we have our calendar. This is what we should be looking at. Franchise tag window starts, was that Monday, February 20th? I believe I think it's Tuesday. February 20th to March 5th is the franchise tag window. That is when teams can go ahead and franchise tag players who are pending free agents. The scouting combine in Indianapolis is February 27th to March 4th. All of you draft bettors out there, the combine is usually when we start to get some of the real buzz about who's shooting up the draft boards, who's fallen, what are the athletic testing numbers. All that stuff comes up on February 27th through the March 4th. And then March 13th, big year. Big day, I should say, because that's the new league year, and that's when free agency begins. So we're less than a month away from NFL free agency. We'll get some quarterback movement. We'll get movement on some of the other, like T. Higgins at wide receiver. He's one of the big free agents out there. I know Daniil Hunter at pass rusher, one of the big pass rushing free agents that's out there on the market. So that's kind of tends to move some of the odds based on what happens with the transactions. Then April 1st, hey, we're at it again. The offseason workouts begin for teams with a new head coach, and then offseason workouts begin for everyone on April 15th, and then the draft April 25th to the 27th in the Motor City in Detroit.
We talked about awards markets. Isn't it really too early to bet the awards markets till we know what the composition of the team is going to be with free agency and obviously the draft?
Unless there's like 100-1 out there that you're like adamant, like this needs to be like 20, I wouldn't really recommend betting it because it's NFL. It's not the end of the regular season. It's NFL Honors Night when you cash, which is the Thursday before the Super Bowl.
Of those big tickets you cashed last week, how many were bet preseason? How many were bet in season?
Gosh, I don't think any of them were preseason, which kind of goes to your point. Because McCaffrey, I bet that like week 3. I had McCaffrey Offensive Player of the Year. That was like week 3. He was around plus 850. And Myles Garrett, that was like post-Thanksgiving. That's when I started betting Myles Garrett. Stefanski was definitely last few weeks of the season. Flacco, I mean, he obviously didn't join until December or so that was obviously in season. And Will Anderson, I said New Year's Eve. So like a lot of these, like you want to quote, we laugh about the monitor stuff, but it's what you really want to do throughout the season.
I sent that ticket to him, all that you sent me with the Will Anderson on it. And he says, congrats. I go, are you nuts? This is, I didn't make this bet. This is spammy.
What did he say then?
He said, oh, great price. I can bet 1,000. I don't bet that. I don't delve into future markets.
Yeah. But they're softer markets, which is why I like them. Like the sides and totals, I bet those and everything, but like you're competing with the big fish and all that stuff. Like there's people out there who are betting $1 million, like you said, $500,000, but the awards markets are a little bit lower limits, so it's softer markets.
I would ask this question. Your play of the year last year was when San Francisco went to Jacksonville, lane 3, right? That was the game you liked the best all year. I bet 2.5.
They closed 3, but yeah, I laid 2.5.
Okay. Well, how does that size bet compare to the bets you make in the future markets?
It's not even. It's in range, but I bet more. But yeah, I bet more on the awards market.
Okay,
for sure. Yeah, just because I feel like I'm a little bit more opinionated on that stuff, and I think the price drops as well. I'm more confident in that versus a game is still a game. Like the ball can bounce any which way, guys can get hurt, all that stuff. Which obviously that impacts the awards as well. But you're getting them at bigger prices. You're not betting minus 110 on a number there. So like the games, like you said, like usually modest size bets, but the awards, if it's a strong opinion, we bet those heavily. Speaking of trying to get down heavily, the NFL draft. You dabble with the draft? You making the drive across state lines to dabble a little bit? No. No dabble.
No.
What do you make of the markets though?
Involved. I watch these kids here when it was here and the Thibodeau and they all this nonsense information they think they have. And
you were here for the post-draft parties?
We had a lot of parties. Breece Hall was at the D. He wasn't 21 yet. He couldn't come here.
He couldn't come to Circle? Wow.
Right, yeah. He had
Have you guys invited him back since?
We do. Okay. I mean, they fondly remember that day. But, I mean, we had some great parties. But all this, it's terrible to be around people who you think have information and all that. I don't. I'd rather listen to Michael and a draft pod or two here and there. But I really don't get involved in it.
Yeah. I mean, my word of advice is I used to get into it like a few years ago. I was really into it. Now it feels like the markets come out later and later. Here in Nevada also we're at a severe disadvantage. I mean, we don't get it until like
really
the week of.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm like.
Take it down on Monday and.
Here's
some places it's up for
12-hour window.
24 hours, and that's it.
Some people it's even shorter than that. I mean, so I honestly, from my perspective, I say, why am I wasting my time looking at a market to where I can't even get much down, and then the markets aren't even available? I'll rather just bet, like, I don't know, NBA awards or baseball awards, or maybe the NBA All-Star break.
I like betting Cy Young. I'm a sucker for Cy Young. I'm a sucker
Blake
for
Snell, baby.
I bet it too much.
Blake Snell, also a pride of Shoreline, Washington. Where's he signing, by the way? We got 30 seconds left. What's going on with that? The reigning Cy Young winners won 2 Cy Youngs. He's out there for agency, pitchers and catchers already reported.
Yeah, I don't know. We need the Padres to field a good team. We're in with them again. We just signed their deal with them.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, hopefully the Padres play well. Soto's now in the Bronx, so.
That's okay.
You think that's good?
I think it's okay.
Tatis, I mean, the way he played the second half of last year, guy's a player, man. We'll see if the Padres can make noise, but I mean, of course, that division is going to be dominated by the Dodgers. Shout out to Shohei Ohtani.
104.5 wins? Is that all they have?
Oh, that's what I'm. Do you want to bet under?
I don't want to bet it at all.
Michael Calabrese joins us next. This is the Lombardi Line on the DraftKings Network. Femi Abebefe alongside Mike Palm, and joining us now to get us caught up on what's been going on in college basketball, the one and only Michael Calabrese, college basketball betting analyst over at the Action Network. Michael, we appreciate you taking the time and joining us as always. I'm looking right now because I want to kind of take the big picture approach before we get into Saturday's big games. Looking at the odds over at DraftKings, UConn's the favorite to repeat, plus 650, co-favorites with Purdue at the same price there. Houston's plus 950, Tennessee, Arizona, they're at 12-1, Auburn 16-1. And it pretty much mirrors what Ken Palm has with their ratings. Is this a year where we think that the kind of the high end of college basketball is going to be where we get our champion, or is it a crazy year to maybe a long shot might go ahead and cut down the nets ultimately by season's end?
I'm going to make the casuals happy with this answer. It is a wide open year. None of these teams in the top 10 can be trusted to win away from home. And because of that, I think there's tons of value for teams on the 4, 5, 6 line right now on Bracket Matrix to go ahead and try to grab a team 20-1 to make it to the Final Four, 50-1 to win the national championship. It's one of those wide open years. And also college basketball has been inching closer and closer in the past decade to teams being too dependent on the 3-point shot. And that is certainly true now. And you saw it in the tournament last year. Arizona and Purdue go out in the very first game against Fairleigh Dickinson and against Princeton because they couldn't make their 3-point shots. There's very few teams that are in the top 10 and also in the Ken Palm top 10 in terms of offensive efficiency that can move away from the 3-point shot if it's not falling. Too many of these squads, they go 3 for 22, they throw their hands up from 3-point range, and they just lose the games. So I'm looking for these teams that aren't 3-point dependent. How can they grind out wins? Because that's what March Madness is about, winning those half-court close games, you know, in terms of the matchups and how they play out, all the TV timeouts, all the stoppages. Can you execute offense in the half-court and not just rely on the 3-point shot? That's why I think it's wide open.
Interesting team in a very loaded Big 12 is Iowa State. Currently sit tied with Houston atop the division, atop the league at 8-3, and they get Hilton Magic tomorrow early in the morning hosting Texas Tech. Your thought on this game, Michael?
Well, I love what they have at Hilton, as you mentioned, but I think you can go even further with them to potentially make the Final Four at 5-1. All of their metrics on the defensive end are incredible. Their head coach is someone who's clearly able to game plan in a rugged Big 12, handle lots of different offenses and schemes. And I think that's going to be critical to be able to game plan on short turnaround windows in March Madness. My only question for them is offensively. Do they have the guard play to potentially keep up in a game come tournament time where they have to play in the 70s or 80s? Lipsy, their point guard, has kind of fallen off the map at times, and that concerns me because he has as many single-digit performances scoring-wise as he does double-digit in his last 10. When he goes away, their offense kind of goes into a deep freeze, and that's why it's more situational dependent for me when it comes to the Cyclones.
We're speaking with Michael Calabrese, college betting analyst of college hoops over at the Action Network, talking college hoops here on the Lombardi Line. Well, you mentioned it, though, Michael. You said the 4 or 5 line might produce a national title. I'm looking at bracket matrix right now, and Duke, Wisconsin, Illinois, Creighton, South Carolina, Dayton, San Diego State, BYU. Those are some of the names that are around there on that 4 or 5 range. Of those names, who do you like the most to be able to make a deep run in March?
I'm going to go with the cop out here and go one line lower because I think by tournament time they're going to bump up into that 5 line. How about Clemson and Colorado State, both 28 to 1 to make the Final Four? I think they're really interesting picks, particularly Clemson. You look at how well they played when they were making their shots from distance in the non conference. Then they go into a deep freeze from 3-point range, and I think they're finally coming out of it. I like to target teams where they've proven their ceiling. They beat North Carolina. They should have beat Duke. They have a tremendous player in the front court in PJ Hall. I think they have that balance if they can just get a little bit of shooting variance to go their way from 3-point range. And then Colorado State, if you're looking for a guard to put a team on his back for all of March Madness, you could do a lot worse than Isaiah Stevens. I think he's the best point guard in the entire country. And I brought it up earlier in terms of being overly reliant on the 3-point shot. Colorado State only takes I would argue kind of a middle ground amount of 3-point shots. They're 177th nationally in terms of 3-point attempts per game. Yet they're still able to score in the high 70s and 80s in a Mountain West conference that when you look out west, Mountain West is a better conference top to bottom than the Pac-12. So the fact of the matter is they're still in that race out there. They're able to score. Medved's offense is incredible to watch when it's clicking. If they can just get a little bit more out of Cartier on the low block, I think he's coming off an ankle injury right now. If he can get healthy for this stretch run, I really like the Rams, and I particularly like them at the price of 28 to 1 to make the Final Four.
Michael, I know Gonzaga is not the Gonzaga we know from the past 15 years, but I was very impressed with St. Mary's when they played Gonzaga. They've won 16 in a row, I believe. What's the ceiling for Randy Bennett's team this year?
I think they're going to win both the regular season and the conference tournament. I think the ceiling is very high on the team. I was actually surprised early on because I thought their roster composition was absolutely perfect. When you throw in Mahaney, I thought they had just enough on the offensive end. And then they struggled a bit. They really were stuck in the mud through the month of December. But now they're playing that high-efficient basketball that Bennett's been known for. And I think overall they're going to be undervalued because they just haven't played in enough marquee games in the last 2 months. And with the Zags taking a significant step back, I think they could be on the wrong side of the bubble come Selection Sunday. I think the public perception is, oh, the WCC is down. How good could St. Mary's be? And from that perspective, I can't wait to play them against the spread in the first weekend of the tournament.
Wow. I mean, Gonzaga's made the tournament every single year since 1999. I can't imagine if Gonzaga missed the NCAA tournament here. Well, Michael, let's get into Saturday's game. UConn-Marquette, that's the big one out there in the Big East, the defending national champions. They're humming along. A lot of people think that they might be able to repeat come March and April. What do you make of them in this matchup against Marquette and Shaka?
So Shaka always has my attention. The gambling alarms are going off whenever he is a road underdog. 11-4-1 against the closing number as a road dog since he took over at Marquette. And that also stretches back to his time at Texas and VCU. He's a master motivator and game planner, particularly when his teams can play that underdog card. So I'm going to put that aside. I actually think the number's just about right at 7. I do think it's going to move down to about 6 by tip-off. Even the money line, not quite as enticing as I want it to be at plus 250. I'm going to go with the over on 147.5 here. My numbers call for this to be 152, and it's all because of tempo. Marquette pushes the ball in transition. They're 19th in fast break points per game. They're also the 7th quickest team in terms of getting shots up in the half court when they're playing against the shot clock. So not only did they go in full transition, but their secondary break, when Kolek has any opportunity to dive into the lane, kick the ball out for a quick three, they take it. I think they have to speed up this game to be able to take advantage of the UConn defense because when you allow UConn to get into their half-court D, their interior defense is so strong. They're second nationally in 2-point field goal percentage allowed. So if you allow them to set up and to really mark everybody, you're behind the 8 ball. So I think Shaka Smart knows that. They're going to play very, very fast. And UConn's the second slowest team in the Big East, but they have the offensive weapons if they choose to play at a faster pace. And I think they will. And I think in the end, they're going to pull away late in Hartford. I'm hoping for some extra foul shots to push this over the closing total.
Michael, College Dame Day for the 4th time is at Auburn as they host Kentucky. You know, I was high on this Kentucky team early in the year. I said, but Calipari's finally got some guys that can shoot the 3. They're going to be good defensive and rebounding. They gave up 89-plus point 4 straight games before they beat Mississippi. We all know about their 3-game losing streak at Rupp. Auburn, to me, is a high-variance team, but an overachieving team from what I thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. Thoughts on this game and on both these two teams in the tournament?
So I pause, when I review both of these teams because Auburn has been so good at home. Obviously, you're not going to play in March on your home floor. And also their guard play just leaves me underwhelmed. I know that Johnny Broome is tremendous. He does such great work on the offensive glass. Williams as well in that front court. They're going to be able to bully teams if that's the way that the game breaks down to a half-court battle. But if it's guard dependent, you can see these guards really struggle to shoot from distance. And I think that's their main issue. Kentucky, you hit it on the head. Not only can they not get stops, but when they do, they can't rebound the basketball. The game against the Zags was enough to move me off of Kentucky for the rest of the season. That was a game I really thought that they were primed to not only win, but to win going away. And the fact of the matter is, they're going to be a high variance team for the rest of the season. When you can score in the 90s, you can beat anybody. And when you give up 90 plus points, you can lose to just about anybody. So Coach Cal, I had faith that he was going to be able to get the rotations right when they brought Big Z into the defensive rotation as well. It's like, maybe some things could change, particularly on the glass. They haven't. So at this point, I'm out on UK. And as I said about Auburn, at home, they're a play-on team, and it's a pass for me when they're away from the Plains.
Yeah, that's a red flag there, Kentucky. If they're giving up that kind of points, you'll lose to a mid-major doing that stuff in the first weekend there. He is Michael Calabrese. Check out all of his work over at the Action Network, breaking down college basketball, also college football as well. Who knows, maybe in a few weeks we'll discuss what's been going on in some of these spring games with the coaching carousel never ending in the world of college football. But he is Michael Calabrese. Michael, we appreciate the time, man. Be well and good luck with the bets.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Michael.
Big red flag on Kentucky there.
St. Mary's.
You like them to go deep?
They're good.
They play so slow though.
It's all right, Fanny.
You okay? I mean, Virginia won it eventually, so I guess playing slow doesn't mean that you can't win. Sometimes I worry about those kind of teams. If they get sped up, how do they adjust? But we got a lot of time to figure that out between now and March Madness. We'll get back to the football on the other side. It's the Lombardi Line. We're actually discussing a little bit during the break here the merits of the Purdue Boilermakers, who once again won last night against Minnesota. Minnesota, by the way, we talked about this, 21-3 against the spread, which is just outstanding.
Impossible.
It's literally impossible. I don't apparently, if you've just been betting Minnesota every single game quietly,
because no one's moving the numbers.
I haven't heard anybody say, "Hey, I've been on the Gophers." Yeah. Nobody's doing it. But if you have, God bless you. You probably are living on an island somewhere, because 21-3 against the spread is just remarkable in a sport like college basketball. But Purdue right now is the number 2 team in KenPom. We talked about the odds with Michael Calabrese in the last segment. They're co-favorites with the defending national champion UConn Huskies. Everyone has written Purdue off because of what has happened in the past. And part of me understands it. Matt Painter has not been a coach that you have wanted to trust in March. I've always said it in the past. I would rather fade Purdue. But at some point, isn't there a little bit of value on a team like that where the consensus opinion is they're just going to choke? Well, they're also one of the 2 best teams in the country. Like, you can't just write them off, can you?
Wow. If you've gone through it for decades and you bet this sport and you see it every year, especially if most of this network is Big Ten territory, right? Everyone comes from the upper Midwest. Yeah. And you've seen it.
I'm not Big Ten territory coming from Seattle.
I know. Well, Cheney, Washington, or wherever you. Anyhow, they never produce, right? Even those teams that Gene Cady had in the mid 80s and late 80s never made a Final Four. So I think it's a little bit different because this kid is so dominant, Edie. I mean, I just watch him like 4 guys are trying to block him out and they can't. I watched it with my eyes, how dominant he is. And I think he's gotten a little more dainty. I think his footwork's gotten better.
Yeah. A little lighter on his feet.
He should take over a game like no other big person. So they're going to be live in every game, obviously. But at plus 150, I mean, that's tough because they got to win a regional final when they haven't ever done it.
Yeah.
Do you also say the same thing about Rick Barnes in Tennessee? He's never been able to get.
I'll never do Rick Barnes.
I mean, but many people say the same thing with Matt Painter.
He's at least been to a Final Four, but the narrative is out there. You can't trust Rick Barnes in March.
Mm-hmm. And I think Rick Barnes is a hell of a coach. But I remember back to the days at Clemson when he would go and make these games close with Carolina. Carolina was so much more talented, but he would gum it up with these big guys and slow the game down in that. And I think he's a hell of a defensive coach. I tell you, I think Tennessee. I had Tennessee on the money line and like a money line 5 or 16 money line parlay when they were at Georgia and down 12 with 6 minutes to go and down 8 with 4 to go, and they outscored Georgia 25-4 down the stretch and almost covered that number. Like, they can shut you down at any time, right? Now they played really up tempo with Kentucky. It was 100 points a game, right? But I just feel like this Tennessee team can shut you down at any time. I said it when North Carolina was 8-0 or whatever they were in conference play. I don't believe in them.
You're crossing them off.
No, I just never believed him. I always thought betting Duke, but Duke never got to a big enough price to win the ACC that I could pull the trigger. But I thought they're going to come back to the pack. They're playing lucky in some of these games. They're not going to be undefeated on the road in the second half. Played very well against Duke at home. Yep. Give them credit. The wire to wire, they had a good lead in the second half. Alabama plays at such a pace They played LSU at Alabama. I've never seen a game played at that pace. And the in-game number is 200, and it stays there. They just go up and down, firing threes and layups, threes and layups. That they can play at that pace is incredible to me. And Iowa State, Otzelberger, another guy at UNLV let get away. He's such a good coach. They play so consistently well. They almost stole that game at Baylor when Drew got the TO and got thrown out of the game. That's the best conference in the country. You make an argument they're probably the second best team behind Houston, or the second most consistent team. Mm-hmm. I don't know Houston. To me, Houston.
Do you even trust Houston with Kelvin Sampson?
They're not enough offensively. They just can't. In the tournament, you can't go when you get behind in a game. You can't have 4, 5, 6 empty possessions in a row. You've got to score in the half court. You've got to be able to do that, and that's a danger when you got to win 6 straight games. So. Arizona, I was higher on, then down, and I know they had a nice win at Colorado when everybody was on Colorado in that contest last week. So I still think Tennessee can make some noise. UConn's the champs. You got to beat them to prove it. I mean, I think Hurley's a really good coach. I think at the end of the day, you might be talking about Hurley as one of the all-time greats. I mean, he does it no nonsense here. I think the kid at Duke Shire, starting this young and being able to recruit to that, here's a guy you might be talking about wins 1,200 games, right? He's going to have a top recruiting class every year to come to Duke. So I know Michael said look at the 4, 5, and 6 line. I still think the champ will probably come from the top 3 lines, but yeah, the teams at the top are too short for me to make a bet on. I guess Tennessee at 3-1 is intriguing to me.
Yeah, and that's to make the Final Four right now. Tennessee plus 290 over at DraftKings. To win the title, they're 12-1, so they're the 4th choice behind UConn, Purdue, and Houston.
What's Purdue to win it all right now?
Plus 650.
This is interesting.
It's a short number. That's why
we get to the Final Four, right? Depends on the matchups and all that. Greg Peterson now, host of the Greg Peterson Experience, Hoops Peterson, says you should never make an NCAA futures bet before Selection Sunday because most is bracket dependent. Most teams are bracket dependent. And so, I mean, the kid's record speaks for itself. So I'll take that bit of advice.
My rule with college hoops there is anything shorter than 100-1, I agree with him.
Yeah.
Like if there's like 150-1 that like I said, like, oh, I just think they're going to be set up to be a bracket buster. Yeah, I take that. But I tend to agree that before I see the bracket, I think you're just kind of, I don't know, you're lighting money on fire a little bit there. I mean, you can still win, but I think oftentimes these numbers don't change that much. So why tie the money up when I could just wait and then just do the 3-week run and hopefully the future gets home there. But Carolina, I still want to kind of do some more work on them at 18-1. Hubert, he's a March coach. He's proven. You know,
that's your guy.
That's my guy.
President of the Hubert Davis fan club.
Said it around on Valentine's Day a couple years ago.
Had a debate with one of our dearly departed, and I think you probably, right now, you probably won the debate. We'll see as time. 20 years from now, if he doesn't win a title, we'll claim victor for the other.
He might cut the nets down in a month or so.
No shot. You want to bet it?
No shot? No, I'm not going to bet
What is their odds? 40
18.
to 1?
They're 18 right now.
To win it all, they're 18? No, that's way too short.
They're 18.
You want to bet? I'll book you at 18-1 if you want to bet Carolina. All right, I'll give you 20-1.
I said during the break.
You always don't make these bets, and you're always smart. I'm always trying to bait you.
I said during the break that if I had 2 teams that I'd go to war with, I think it'd be Purdue and Arizona.
You're high on Arizona.
I still like Arizona.
Tommy Lloyd.
Their size, I think they play at a good tempo. Yeah. They defend well enough. Those are the kind of teams I like. I like teams that play with tempo and defend. I think that wins, and it can keep you in games. Like, yeah, you might go through some scoring droughts, but if you can force turnovers, get some of those extra possessions.
They're playing in a down conference is one of my knocks on them. It's really down.
But they tested themselves in non-con, though. They went to Indianapolis to play Purdue. You know, like they have some games that they've played against top competition.
They almost got beat by Michigan State.
They did.
I remember that game.
January, February, Izzo?
Yeah.
Speaking of a guy who's been riding one title for years, I mean, I respect Tom Izzo as a head coach, but I mean, the guy, we call all these other coaches chokers. I mean, they haven't won the national title since 2000, you know, and you can talk to me about all the Final Four appearances, but you're going to the Final Four, you're losing every single time. I mean, what are we doing?
We're good for Carolina when they always met them in the Final Fours. Little resistance.
Carolina would just demolish them.
They demolished them on that aircraft carrier outside of San Diego to win that 1 year.
The 2000, I think it was 2009 when Carolina ultimately won that. When Hansbrough finally won the title, they destroyed Michigan State.
That's the year that they won every game by double digits. They had a UConn-like run from last year.
I mean, they were so due for winning the title.
The game was done like 5 minutes in.
It was a fun. If you backed Carolina, that was a fun year to go ahead and do it.
I think they were 7-point favorite in that game. Carolina.
I wouldn't remember.
I know. I bet them. I think they were 7 or 7.5.
Should have been 17. We played that game. I mean, that was a team. I mean, Danny Green was on that team. Ellington.
Oh, Ellington was such a pure shooter.
He was good. I thought he was gonna be good in the NBA. Didn't work out for him. Danny Green though, he had a nice career in the NBA.
He actually did.
Yeah,
couple titles.
7.5 is what the Tar Heels were laying.
Thank you.
Our producer Elliot on top of it.
Was that game in Indianapolis? Where was that game?
I think it was Detroit.
played?
It was Detroit, right? I think it was Ford. I think it was a Ford Field extravaganza. Yeah. So the Tar Heels, the deans of college basketball, as somebody once said. Minute left.
That was what Nance said when Roy won his first one when they beat Illinois. There's a new dean in college. He always has the line ready for when the game ends.
Rock Chalk Championship.
The Super Bowl ends. He's got it all ready.
Jackpot. He's one of the best. He's one of the all-time greats.
Brent would have kept the same salary. Nance would still be in Salt Lake City. I mean, it's a very interesting history.
Just takes one little thing and the domino, the butterfly effect of the NFL
brother in
commentator.
the year. That brother.
30 seconds ago, All-Star break. Are you betting any of the three-point contest stuff? Now,
I stopped watching the All-Star game when Jordan left the Bulls. I stopped. I just watched the freeze Isaiah out. That's all I want. That's all I want.
You haven't seen an All-Star since 98. Madison Square Garden, 98, your last All-Star game.
The Spud Webb won the thing. I don't.
It was rigged.
Back when Dominique, those were good. Those were good.
I think Mac McClung is the favorite.
I don't even know. Those were great, though. The dunk. You look forward to the dunk contest more than the game.
Now you look forward to the three-point contest, which I'll give out my bet on the other side as we wrap up the show next here on the Lombardi Line. How you doing, Mike?
You're my new partner in life, I guess, huh?
Yeah, apparently.
Tomorrow, starting
Check
tomorrow.
us out. 3 to 6 Eastern. Live bets Saturday. I don't even know what day of the week it is.
Noon to 3 local time, right here in the studio. And then we're filling in for Mitch and Paul Monday on Follow the Money.
7 to 10 Eastern.
They'll be back on Wednesday from their vacation.
Where'd they go?
Mitch went to Hawaii.
Nice.
Paul is at the Golden Gate. I swear to God. This guy.
Right now?
Yeah, he had a room all week. That's his vacation.
Hey, staycations are good,
Every time. Get out of town. Well, he said the dog is not going to be 9 years old in May, so maybe his travel will open up. How long can these beagles live?
You're trying to write his dog off the show.
Well, that's why he doesn't go anywhere, though. He's very loyal to that. Even when he comes down here, he usually has to leave by 5:30 because he goes home to the dog.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Jordan. That's the
Jordan.
That's the dog. Nice. He's a
After
beautiful
Michael
dog.
Jordan, or is
yes, sir.
Okay, there you go. MJ. Speaking of MJ, All-Star Weekend in Indianapolis. Our producer Elliot, he's excited. Indianapolis gets to be the center of attention in the sports world.
Let's hope they never host another Super Bowl. I heard that mentioned. Indianapolis has to be part of the rotation.
It's a great host city. But everybody from Indianapolis will tell you that it's a great host city.
Yeah,
Elliot will tell you that. Wes will tell you that.
Frank
all of
Schwab
our
from
Indiana
Yahoo
people.
Sports. I think he's on the Indianapolis Better Business Bureau or Chamber of Commerce or something going on. He loves Indianapolis.
NFL media will fight you if you suggest somewhere other than Indianapolis host the Combine. They will fight you. Listen, it should always stay in Indianapolis.
Crossroads of America.
It is. I mean,
Back home again.
They love the shrimp cocktail out
in
there.
Indiana.
So St. Elmo's? That's what we're doing? St. Elmo's, the shrimp cocktail? The cocktail sauce. Everybody loves it. But the All-Star game is going on Sunday, East versus West. We've gone back to East-West. No more drafting of the players.
That's good.
Or anything
it's
like
easy
that.
to keep track.
It is
the
easier to
NHL
keep
went to drafting, or it didn't do anything. We didn't have our right was down.
There were like four
by teams, and they draft. They still played the 2 10-minute 3-on-3s.
Gotcha.
Which I have to tell you because I made a little bit of money betting it early.
Okay.
Look, when they first started this 3-on-3 overtime, there was like a goal in the first minute, right? Now most games go to a shootout. So what does that tell you? When they played 2 10-minute, it's not going to be 17 goals, right? The opener was like 13.5, and they scored 8 in the first one, and then they eventually adjusted down to 10.5 and 10.
Banging unders
on the top. Yeah, but they figured out 3-on-3, right? How to defend 3-on-3.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a really good point to bring up there. Always be looking for some of those edges out there. And the All-Star game for the NBA, I don't think there'll be as much defense. I think the total, I looked at that earlier. The total was astronomical. It's like 367 and a half.
Yeah, you can't
is
blitz.
Where Westgate is. 364 and a half is where the consensus number is. Right now, the Western Conference is a 2.5 point favorite in this game that'll be played over at Indianapolis. But All-Star festivities Saturday night, the All-Star contest, 3-point shootout, that's coming up here. I have a bet on that one And right now, the favorite in that market is Damian Lillard, who is the reigning three-point champion, because they've kind of tweaked the rules.
So they still do the bonus ball?
They still have the bonus rack, but now, like, if you like take back and like take like a 35-footer or a 30-footer, it's like 4 points. It's a weird rules that they've done for the NBA All-Star game and the weekend with the three-point contest. But I'm gonna pull up on the DraftKings app right now to see what the All-Star. Do they have these markets up? I'm looking at the Team Feud. Okay.
Do they still go by rounds where you elimination from 8 down to a winner?
It's 2 rounds. So the final round will have 3 contestants.
It's not head-to-head the whole way.
No, it's not head-to-head the whole way. It's not like a bracket style sort of setup there. But Lillard is the favorite. And the guy who I bet on, though, is Lauri Markkanen, sharpshooter for the Utah Jazz. He is a 40% three-point shooter. And I guess my handicap with a lot of these three-point contests, I always gravitate toward the big guys because I think that stamina and energy is required to actually win.
Stamina is the biggest thing.
It's the biggest deal.
To go through, is it just 2 rounds you said?
It's 2 rounds.
Right.
But still,
I remember when it used to be
lot.
3 because it was a bracket.
Yep. But it's tiring, though, to do that stuff. And I think the bigger guys, it takes a little bit less energy to actually get your shots up, because some of those guys that shoot jump shots, they get a lot off the ground. A lot of the big guys are getting like a quarter inch off the ground.
Legs. Your legs give out when you have to jump.
Your legs will give out.
How many? 8 people in it again?
8 people. So I'm pulling up a sportsbook right now that has it up. The favorite is Damian Lillard right now at plus 425. Tyrese Halliburton, he's hosting. Indiana Pacer, plus 500. Trae Young, plus 575. You have Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns at plus 650. Towns famously won this a couple years ago because I think he gets maybe a tenth of an inch off the ground when he shoots, and he's a pretty good shooter. He's plus 650. Markkanen right now is plus 725. Malik Beasley, plus 625. The longest shot, Donovan Mitchell at plus 825.
Curry doesn't do it anymore?
He's going up against Sabrina.
Oh, that's his special. Yeah. Does he usually shoot in it?
He's won it multiple times.
Did Lillard beat him last year? Was he in it last year?
I'm not sure if Curry was in it last year, but Lillard won it last year. But right now, I'm trying to see right now the rules for Steph versus Sabrina. So it's going to follow the normal kind of contest rules: 4 ball racks, 4 game balls, 1 money ball. 5th rack will be a special all money ball rack. 2 starry range shots. So that's the new thing, the starry range, which is I think 30, 35 footers. And then Steph will shoot from the NBA line with NBA basketballs. Sabrina will shoot from the WNBA line with WNBA basketballs.
Are people booking this?
Oh, yeah.
What's DraftKings got it? She's got to be favored.
Steph is minus 210 is what you said, Elliot?
Give me the
220
girl from New York.
Sabrina is what price?
No.
I can find a plus 220 on Sabrina in town.
Let's go. Let's do it together.
You want to bet some Sabrina?
Yeah, let's bet some Sabrina.
I'll put a little something on it.
Let's bet 200 each.
We'll shop around, but I want to get the best price, but we'll shop around. We'll shop around and do this right after the show.
He's got too many other things in his mind. The Clay, they're not slapping the hands. It's over.
How about Clay off the bench last night?
Brothers are over now. Clay's accepting a lesser role.
He had 7 threes.
He wants no part of Steph with the...
I was looking at scores. I said, this guy has 35 off the bench. What's taking Steve Kerr so long? What's going on?
So I had them in a money line parlay. They were up like 20. I looked her up 3. Utah had the ball. I said, this is going to be the thing that loses. I had a tennis dog win. I go, I'm going to lose this game.
You got Swiatek as a dog?
No. She had a walkover today. Let's move on. Keep looking forward.
Do you ever watch the Warriors broadcast on League Pass?
No.
Oh, my God. It's fantastic. Their play-by-play guy, Bob Fitzgerald, the best, because he's calling the game, doing the regular play-by-play duties, but then he's also coaching the team up. So I love it. I always tune in. If I can ever get the Warriors broadcast, I tune in. He was telling it last night. He's like, this would have been a disastrous loss and all that. And it would have, honestly, the way the Clipper game went the other night. But it's one of the better Homer broadcasts that you get on the NBA. But Lauri Markkanen's my guy, though. Do you like that? Plus 800 is what I was able to get.
I don't know him. I don't know that guy.
He's a Utah Jazz forward. He won Most Improved Player last year.
I don't know.
There you go. So Lauri Markkanen is my guy. And if you look at some of the percentages, which I think is really fascinating, Lillard is actually having a down year in terms of three-point shooting, 34%, although he's the favorite, which a little shaky. I get history, and he's won it before, but he's only shooting 34%. Some people actually believe that he's kind of a step slower this year. Trae Young's at 37%. Halliburton, he's at 40% for the year. Malik Beasley at 44% this season. He's at plus 600 if you're interested in that. Brunson, 41%. Towns at 43%. Markkanen's at 40%. Mitchell is at 36%, which is why he's the longest shot right now on the board.
Who's the best in the NBA? Just overall best three-point percentage. Is it one of these guys?
That's a good question. Let me look that. I would imagine that Malik Beasley's got to be up there. If he's at 44% for a season. I mean, obviously the best shooter obviously is of course Steph Curry.
You have any future tickets in the NBA? Did you get on the Clippers when JVT was sounding the clarion bell for them?
I got on some Ty Lue, Coach of the Year.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
We talked about that during the NFC title game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Grayson Allen is shooting 48.2% from beyond the arc. That's insane.
Not invited.
Another
Duke.
Not invited. We didn't want we didn't want a Dookie in there to take it down.
Stomping.
He was tripping people, I think, was his thing.
Indefinite suspension. 1 game.
Got to go to NBA therapy.
ACC legends. It'll be like that. Next.
He's got to go to NBA therapy. Ty Lue, though, Coach of the Year, I bet a little bit of Kawhi.
What price did you get it at?
I have Lue at 100, and I also have some 12 and a little bit of 8.
What is he currently?
5, I believe, is his consensus
Is he the favorite
number.
now?
No. Daigneault, the OKC coach,
he's
still the favorite.
If the guy was coaching in hockey, it'd be Daigneault, but it's Daigneault in the NBA.
He says it's Daigneault. I don't. You tell me how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
But on paper, it looks like Daigneault. But it's Daigneault, then Finch after that. Bickerstaff has actually surged up a little bit. JB Bickerstaff in Cleveland, they've been playing pretty well since the new year.
I like them. I watched a couple of their games. They're tough.
Good.
I got beat by them. I had the Clippers when they played at Cleveland.
Yeah, they beat
them pretty soundly. And they just never let the Clippers make a run in the second half.
I think that Boston, maybe Missoula might have a chance. Just given the fact that they've won a bajillion games. They're 43-12 right now heading into the All-Star break. They're playing at a 64-win pace. If they ever get to 65, 66 wins, I think maybe he has a strong case for Coach of the Year. But Lue right now is the guy that I'm going to war with in that market. And then Kobe White for Most Improved Player of the Chicago Bulls. Also of North Carolina lore as well. So it all comes back to the Tar Heels. Any last thoughts for you, Mike Paul?
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow?
Yeah.
3 to 6?
Yeah, noon. High noon here. Right here. Same time. Same bat channel.
For our producer Elliot Bowman, the entire crew behind the glass, I'm Femi Benfei saying good luck with all the bets. Sharp Money follows us after this.